When the Galactic Linguistics Institute attempts to decipher what they believe is an extinct pre-spacefaring civilization's mysterious communication tablet, they expect ancient wisdom, forgotten wars, or perhaps primitive religious texts. What they don't expect is for the lone human exchange student to casually glance at their months-long project and ask why they're reading his grocery list. As Professor Vek'tharion and his team of the galaxy's most brilliant xenolinguists realize the horrifying truth about humanity's casual use of physical writing in the age of quantum networks, they stumble upon a revelation that threatens everything they thought they knew about Earth's true history and why humans were really kept isolated for so long. This is the story of the day the universe learned that humanity's most dangerous weapon wasn't their military, their technology, or their stubbornness. It was their paperwork. Professor Vek'tharion of the Xenolithic Studies Department had been staring at the tablet for 6 months, 3 weeks and 4 solar cycles. Not continuously, of course. That would be insane, even by academic standards, but the angular symbols etched into the compressed fiber material had consumed every waking thought since the artifact collector had sold it to the Institute for 12,000 credits. It's definitely pre-contact, Mira Thorne, his Centaurian research assistant, announced for the 40th time that week. She adjusted her spectral analyzer, her secondary eye stalks twitching with excitement. Carbon dating puts it at least 200 standard years old, before humanity even knew we existed. Fascinating, muttered Zekmore, the Regalian cryptolinguist, his tentacles dancing across 3 separate holographic keyboards simultaneously. The syntax structure suggests a ceremonial purpose. Look at the repetition here. Here, he highlighted several passages that glowed amber in the sterile white laboratory. This could be a religious text, perhaps instructions for a ritual. Vek'tharion clicked his mandibles thoughtfully, a gesture his human colleagues found disturbing but which signified deep concentration among his species. The symbols were maddeningly simple, almost primitive, yet they'd resisted every translation algorithm the Institute possessed. 17 different linguistic AI programs had crashed trying to establish a baseline pattern. What if it's a historical record? Offered Dr. Calvuz, smoothing down his crystalline skin plates. The Litharian historian had joined the project 3 months ago, bringing with him an encyclopedic knowledge of dead civilizations. A chronicle of their early attempts at space exploration. The materials are consistent with Earth's early industrial period. Too mundane, Vek'tharion dismissed, though not unkindly. This was preserved intentionally, sealed in a degradation-resistant polymer casing, stored in climate-controlled conditions. This mattered to someone. The automatic doors hissed open, admitting a blast of recycled corridor air and one extremely late human. Jamie Torres shuffled in carrying a container of what the humans insisted on calling coffee, despite it smelling like burnt engine lubricant to anyone with functional olfactory senses. Sorry, Jamie mumbled, sliding into his workstation. The transit pod got stuck between sectors 7 and 8. Some Vordanian decided today was a great day to molting in the middle of the public transport system. The human exchange student had been with the department for 5 months now, and Vek'tharion still couldn't quite figure him out. Humans were the galaxy's newest member species, and their admission to the Galactic Council had been controversial. They were aggressive, emotional, wildly unpredictable, and possessed an almost supernatural ability to befriend or infuriate any species they encountered, sometimes simultaneously. But they were also remarkably clever when they bothered to focus. We're continuing analysis on the ceremonial tablet, Miro explained, pulling up the holographic projection so Jamie could see from his station. Any fresh perspectives would be welcome. Human pattern recognition has proven useful before. Jamie took a long sip of his coffee, squinted at the floating image, tilted his head like one of Earth's domestic canines, and nearly spat out his beverage. Why are you reading my letters? The laboratory fell silent. Even the ambient hum of the environmental system seemed to pause. Excuse me, Vek'tharion's translator implant must have malfunctioned. Surely the human hadn't just... Those are letters, Jamie repeated, standing up and walking closer to the projection, pointing at the symbols with his coffee container. Like, actual physical letters. From Earth. That's English writing. Bad English writing. But definitely English. Impossible. Zekmor's tentacles had frozen mid-keystroke. This artifact predates first contact by decades. It's been authenticated by 3 separate dating facilities. The linguistic structure alone. It's cursive, Jamie interrupted. And if Vek'tharion had possessed human facial features, he imagined his expression would mirror the looks of dawning horror spreading across his colleagues' faces. Really terrible cursive. Honestly, like whoever wrote this probably failed penmanship in elementary school. But it's definitely someone's handwriting. Cursive? Mira's translator struggled with the word. Physical writing done by hand in a flowing connected style, Jamie explained, circling the projection. It's kind of a lost art. Most humans under 60 can't read it anymore because we stopped teaching it consistently around, 2020 or so. He leaned closer, squinting. Okay, so, reading upside down and accounting for the fact that this person apparently wrote with their feet. This says, let's see, milk, eggs, bread, butter, chicken breasts, paper towels, laundry detergent, call mom, renew car insurance, pick up dry cleaning, remember Sarah's birthday. The silence that followed could have suffocated stars. This is a shopping list, Jamie concluded cheerfully, and a reminder list. Someone's weekly errands. Probably. They wrote it down on a piece of paper, which I'm guessing is what your compressed fiber material actually is, and just, I don't know, lost it, or threw it away. Vek'tharion felt something crack in his psyche. 6 months. 6 months of analysis. 17 crashed AI programs. 4 published preliminary papers. A grant proposal for continued research worth 90,000 credits. All for a human's grocery list. But the preservation, Cal protested weakly. The polymer casing, the climate control. Oh, someone probably put it in a plastic sleeve or a sealed container, Jamie shrugged. Humans do that with paper documents. Keeps them from getting wet or torn. We're actually really bad about just sticking random stuff in drawers and forgetting about it for decades. My grandmother had a box of old receipts from the 1970s in her attic. Nobody knew why. Mira had gone completely still, all 4 of her eyes unfocused. The repetition patterns we identified as ceremonial significance. Someone double-checking their list, Jamie confirmed. People do that. Write something down twice to remember it better, or because they forgot they already wrote it. The variant symbol forms suggesting dialectical evolution, Zekmor whispered. Just really inconsistent handwriting. Look, they wrote the letter E like 3 different ways in the same word here. Vek'tharion slowly rotated his primary visual sensors toward the cabinet where they'd stored the other 17 artifacts awaiting analysis. All physical documents. All purchased from the same collector. All supposedly ancient human texts of profound cultural significance. Jamie, he said very carefully, hypothetically speaking, if one were to have acquired multiple such tablets from a dealer specializing in pre-contact Earth artifacts, what would you estimate the probability that they're all old trash some human threw away that got preserved by accident? Jamie finished. I mean, paper lasts pretty well if you keep it dry. Could be notes, could be junk mail, could be old homework assignments. Want me to check the others? Nobody answered. Nobody could answer. The implications were cascading through their minds like dominoes constructed from academic credentials and career prospects. It was Cal who finally broke the silence, his voice hollow. I published 3 papers analyzing the theological implications of the repetitive structure. I presented at the Interstellar Linguistics Conference about the ritual significance, Mira added faintly. I claimed it was evidence of a pre-technological society developing proto-computational thinking, Vek'tharion admitted, feeling ancient and foolish. Jamie looked around at the devastated faces of the galaxy's finest linguistic minds and did what humans did best. He started laughing, not maliciously or mockingly, but with genuine infectious amusement that somehow made everything worse and better simultaneously. Oh man, he wheezed, wiping his eyes. Wait until I tell Earth about this. The Galactic Institute spent half a year translating someone's shopping list. This is going straight into the group chat. Please don't, Vek'tharion begged, but he already knew it was futile. Humans couldn't resist sharing embarrassing stories. It was apparently hardwired into their social behavior. Too late, already typing. Jamie grinned at his personal device. Then he paused, his expression shifting to something more thoughtful. Although you know what, this does raise an interesting question. What question? Vek'tharion almost didn't want to know. Well, Jamie gestured at the tablet. If this really is 200 years old and it's definitely from Earth and you found it on the black market in the Outer Rim territories, he trailed off meaningfully. The implications hit Vek'tharion like a cargo freighter at full thrust. Human documents from before first contact, somehow appearing in alien space markets. Hundreds, possibly thousands of light years from Earth. Decades before humanity supposedly achieved faster than light travel. Before anyone allegedly knew Earth existed. That's impossible, Mira breathed. Yeah, Jamie agreed, but his voice had lost its humor. Impossible, just like it should be impossible that you're finding pre-contact human artifacts in a part of space that humans had no way of reaching. Almost like someone else was visiting Earth long before first contact was officially made. Someone who maybe picked up some garbage as souvenirs and accidentally created the galaxy's dumbest black market. The laboratory had transformed from a place of academic pride into something resembling a crime scene, except instead of investigating a murder, they were investigating the systematic dismantling of every assumption the Galactic Council had made about humanity's integration into interstellar society. Jamie had stopped laughing approximately 30 seconds after his observation. Now he stood very still, staring at the shopping list like it had personally insulted his ancestors. Okay, so let me get this straight, he said slowly. That dangerous kind of calm that Vek'tharion had learned meant a human was thinking very hard about something that would probably cause problems for everyone involved. The official story is that the Galactic Council discovered Earth 42 years ago during a routine survey mission. First contact protocols, the whole diplomatic song and dance. Humanity gets probationary membership after proving we're not complete barbarians. Right. Correct, Vek'tharion confirmed, though his mandibles were clicking nervously. Standard procedure for integrating pre-FTL civilizations, showing sufficient technological and social development. And before that, this entire region of space was supposedly unexplored, too far from major trade routes, nothing of strategic interest, just empty systems and dust clouds. The Council had no reason to come poking around our little corner of the galaxy. Also correct. Mira's eye stalks had begun twitching in a pattern that Vek'tharion recognized as extreme agitation. Jamie picked up the tablet, handling it with considerably more care now. So explain to me how Sarah's birthday reminder ended up in an Outer Rim artifact market 200 light-years from Earth, inside a preservation case that your own carbon dating says was sealed approximately 200 years ago. Nobody spoke. The environmental systems hummed. Somewhere in the building, someone was teaching a class on Vek'tharion poetry. Life continued as normal everywhere except this laboratory, where the foundations of galactic history were cracking. Unless, Jamie continued, his voice taking on an edge that made Vek'tharion's survival instincts tingle, someone was already visiting Earth. Long before first contact. Long before we supposedly caught anyone's attention. Someone was there watching us, studying us, maybe taking samples, and definitely picking through our garbage like cosmic raccoons. Cal made a sound that his species used to express profound distress. That would violate approximately 47 different sections of the Galactic Concordat. Pre-contact observation of developing species is permitted only under the strictest scientific protocols, with full documentation, and certainly without removing physical artifacts. The penalties for covert interference are severe. Zekmore finished. Sanctions, council membership suspension, criminal prosecution of everyone involved. The last time a species got caught conducting unauthorized pre-contact studies, their entire government was dissolved and rebuilt under council supervision. Right, super illegal, got it. Jamie waved his hand dismissively. But here's the thing that's really bothering me. You guys are smart. Like genuinely brilliant. You've built an interstellar civilization. You've got AI that can crack most dead languages. You've got technology that makes our best stuff look like stone tools. He gestured around the laboratory. And yet you spent 6 months trying to translate English cursive. Why? The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Because, Vek'tharion said slowly, the pieces assembling in his mind with horrifying clarity, we weren't supposed to recognize it as English. We weren't supposed to know what human writing looked like from that time period. Give the professor a prize, Jamie said without humor. Someone deliberately kept pre-contact human information classified, scrubbed it from the databases, restricted access, made sure that when these artifacts started showing up in markets, nobody would recognize them for what they were. They wanted them to look like mysterious ancient texts from an unknown civilization. Mira had started pulling up database archives, her fingers flying across her workstation. He's right. Look at this. The Institute's xenoanthropology files on Earth only go back to official first contact. Everything before that is marked as reconstructed from human sources. We have no independent observational data from before 42 years ago. Nothing? Cal demanded, abandoning his own station to look over her shoulder. That's absurd. Standard survey protocols require at least 50 years of remote observation before first contact. Where are the preliminary studies, the ecological surveys, the cultural assessments? Classified, Mira read from her screen. All pre-contact Earth observation data is restricted to Council Security Level 7 clearance. Reason given is protection of human cultural development and prevention of contamination bias in integration studies. That's bureaucratic nonsense, Zekmore said flatly. I've worked with classified materials before. That's the kind of language you use when you're hiding something embarrassing, not protecting scientific integrity. Jamie had pulled out his personal device and was typing rapidly. I'm checking something. Give me a second. His eyes scanned whatever he was reading, and his expression grew progressively darker. Okay, so I'm looking at Earth's historical records now. Archaeological evidence, satellite imagery analysis, atmospheric composition studies, and there are anomalies. What kind of anomalies? Vek'tharion almost didn't want to know, but scientific curiosity overrode self-preservation instincts. The fun kind that make conspiracy theorists foam at the mouth, Jamie replied. Trace elements in ice core samples that don't match any known terrestrial source. Unexplained orbital debris from the 1800s that wasn't satellite technology because we didn't have satellites yet. Reports of aerial phenomena that were officially dismissed as weather balloons or mass hysteria, except the descriptions match standard galactic survey ship profiles almost exactly. He looked up from his device. Someone was watching us. For a long time. And then they made absolutely sure that nobody else in the galaxy knew about it. The implications were staggering. Vek'tharion felt his worldview reforming, academic certainties dissolving into uncomfortable questions. But why? Cal asked. What possible reason would justify such extensive deception? That's the million-credit question, isn't it? Jamie said. He was pacing now, a very human behavior when agitated. What's so special about Earth that warranted centuries of covert observation, and then a massive cover-up? We're not particularly unique, carbon-based, oxygen-breathing, pretty standard galactic template. Our technology was primitive until recently. We're aggressive, sure, but so are half the species in the Council. What made us worth all this trouble? Mira had gone very still. Jamie, what else does your historical data show? Any other physical artifacts that seem out of place? Tons, Jamie said immediately. Stuff that was written off as hoaxes or misidentifications. But now that I'm looking at it with fresh eyes, knowing that someone was definitely here, he trailed off, scrolling through his device. Oh no. What? 4 voices asked simultaneously. The collector you bought this from, Jamie said carefully. Where exactly in the Outer Rim was their operation based? Vek'tharion pulled up the acquisition records. Station Helix 9 in the Viridian cluster. Why? Because according to Earth's astronomical data, that's exactly where a significant gravitational anomaly was detected, about 230 years ago. A massive energy signature that our primitive sensors registered but couldn't explain. The scientific community debated it for decades before deciding it must have been a natural phenomenon. It was a station, Zekmore said flatly. A hidden station, operating in violation of every council law regarding pre-contact civilizations. And someone got sloppy with their garbage disposal. Jamie laughed, but it was a sharp, bitter sound. Someone's been running an unauthorized Earth observation program for at least 2 centuries, probably longer. They've been taking samples, studying us, collecting our trash as souvenirs, and then when the official first contact happened, they buried everything to avoid prosecution. And now their contraband is leaking into black markets, and academics are accidentally uncovering the biggest scandal in Galactic Council history by trying to translate shopping lists. We need to report this, Mira said, immediately. Council oversight, proper authorities, full investigation. Do we though? Jamie interrupted. Think about it. Whoever did this has enough power to classify entire databases, scrub historical records, and maintain the cover-up for decades after first contact. They're not some rogue operator. This is institutional. This goes high up. The laboratory fell silent again. But this time it was the silence of people realizing they'd stumbled into something far larger and more dangerous than academic fraud. Vek'tharion looked at his colleagues, at the shopping list floating in holographic projection, at the human exchange student who'd accidentally blown open a conspiracy by recognizing his own language. So what do we do? He asked. Jamie's expression was unreadable. Well, you've got 2 options. Option 1, you report this through proper channels, hope the investigation doesn't get buried by whoever's behind it, and probably watch your careers implode when powerful people get embarrassed. Option 2, he grinned. And Vek'tharion was reminded that humans hadn't clawed their way to interstellar civilization by being cautious. We translate the rest of those tablets, document everything, and release it publicly before anyone can stop us. Full academic transparency. Let the galaxy decide what to do with the information. That's career suicide, Cal protested. Maybe, Jamie agreed, but it's also one hell of a story. And honestly, after spending 6 months convinced you were deciphering profound ancient wisdom only to find out it was someone's reminder to pick up dry cleaning, don't you want to know what the rest of this garbage says? Could be more shopping lists. Could be evidence that changes everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. Mira's eye stalks had stopped twitching. It would be the most significant xenoarchaeological discovery in Council history. It would end our careers, Zekmore countered. It would be the truth, Vek'tharion said quietly. They looked at each other, a Xenolithic professor, a Centaurian research assistant, a Regillian cryptolinguist, a Litharian historian, and a human exchange student who'd just wanted his coffee and hadn't expected to accidentally unravel a galactic conspiracy before lunch. All right, Vek'tharion clicked his mandibles decisively. Jamie, teach us to read human cursive. We have 17 more artifacts to translate, and apparently a cover-up to expose. Mira, start backing up everything to independent servers that Council security can't access. Zekmore, pull any similar artifacts from other institutions. If this is widespread, we need to know. KL, start documenting everything with timestamps and authentication protocols. We're going to need an airtight chain of evidence. And what are you going to do? Jamie asked. Vek'tharion pulled up his communication interface. I'm going to call every journalist, academic rival and political troublemaker I know. If we're going to commit career suicide, we might as well make it spectacular. Jamie raised his coffee container in a mock toast. Now you're thinking like a human. Welcome to the wonderful world of creating diplomatic incidents through sheer stubbornness and poor impulse control. I'm already regretting this, Vek'tharion muttered, but he was clicking his mandibles in what humans would recognize as a smile. After decades of careful academic research and cautious publication, the prospect of blowing up his career over a shopping list was oddly liberating. Besides, he genuinely wanted to know who wrote that list, why they never picked up their dry cleaning, and how their trash had ended up 200 light-years from home. Those were the kinds of questions that made xenoarchaeology interesting. And if the answers happen to embarrass powerful people and expose a centuries-long conspiracy, well, that was just a bonus. All right, everyone, Jamie said, pulling up the next artifact. Let's see what other profound mysteries await us. My money's on at least one being someone's homework assignment. Any takers? Nobody took the bet. They'd all learned their lesson about underestimating human garbage. In the end, it wasn't humanity's weapons, technology, or stubbornness that shook the Galactic Council to its foundations. It was their casual habit of writing things down, losing the paper, and letting it become someone else's problem 2 centuries later. Sarah, wherever she was, presumably eventually got her birthday remembered. But her reminder had just started a political firestorm that would burn through the highest levels of galactic government. Vek'tharion suspected she would have found that hilarious.